If you found yourself being attacked by any of these guys in Dying Light 2 this week, you may have wondered what on earth is going on. I say that because the exact same thing happened to me playing the original game a few years back. That was when the Chivalry event went live. Now, at the time I had no idea about community events and I was so confused when I kept getting charged by random knights in armour. Honestly, I thought my game had been invaded. So I found myself feeling quite nostalgic seeing them now spawning in Dying Light 2, but this time it's a crossover event for the game For Honor. And I have to say that for me at least, this is a crossover event done right. And I'm really surprised that I've seen lots of people saying that they think this is a boring event, but I'll tell you why I disagree in a moment. Now, being a third person game, you wouldn't think that For Honor would translate to Dying Light 2, not as well as Chivalry did in the first game at least. But the team at Techland have gone above and beyond by bringing 3 characters from Ubisoft's game to life. They even created new animations and attacks just for this event, which is a crazy amount of effort really, and I hope that they can implement them somehow in the game's existing enemies, as it seems a bit of a waste otherwise. So the Viking Berserker, the Knight Warden and the Samurai Kenshi can spawn anywhere in Villador, and they can either be solo or dueling with each other, or you can find 3 of the warriors spawning at the same time, which can be pretty tough in confined spaces where you can get backed up against the environment, especially when Warden's majorly OP sword attack hits you. It literally sends you flying. Some of the moves like the sword lunge or the jumping spin attack, they really reminded me of Lord Asmrod from Hellraid. And the Berserker has definitely borrowed some ideas from the old Viking Raiders of Haran bundle from the original game. Now I think the Berserker is probably the least unique of the 3, as despite his signature backflip and headbutts, he mostly behaves like a regular renegade, and he's also the easiest to kill with the weaker weapons, as they just clang off the armour of the other 2. I really love the gestures they've added as well, like Berserker's throat slice or Kenshi's beckoning you to fight, and I was really surprised when he picked up a rock and threw it at me when I was out of reach. Now I honestly don't know if that was a unique thing to Kenshi or a feature that was in the game already, because I just haven't seen it before. I think they've really nailed the human combat for these enemies, and for the first time I actually enjoyed it, as up until now that aspect of DL2 was always a bit of a chore for me, so yeah, I'm quite impressed. So as I mentioned earlier, I was really surprised to see people saying they thought the event was boring, as fundamentally it didn't require any less of you than the Halloween event did a few weeks back. I mean, how is having to kill X amount of warriors any different to having to kill X amount of volatiles? If anything, that was just regular volatile farming, but with added pumpkin heads and random effects to spice it up a bit. And Baka only really asks you to do the same kind of bounties as every other vendor does, but just with Halloween rewards. Now I like the fact that the For Honor event doesn't have a vendor, and it feels to me much more like an old school Dying Light event. Seeing characters that are totally out of place in the game makes it feel more special, and that's exactly how they did it in DL1 with crossover events like Unturned or Rust. A good example of a boring crossover event was the Vampire one a few weeks back. I mean, that essentially just made you grind existing challenges that are already in the game just to get a free bundle, and that was it. Also, the argument that the trailer isn't a true representation of this event is a bit silly really in my opinion. I mean, it's not like a burger that looks nothing like it did on the menu poster. Techland have always made these flashy, high-produced trailers to add context to the events. They even make mini action sequences just to sell bundles sometimes, so should we really expect anything less now? The work they put into this crossover with Ubisoft's IP is already pretty high, and to change the game even more than this for a limited event would go way beyond the cost-benefit ratio. I mean, honestly. Yes, we want more content in the game, but these little additions like new enemy types and their unique animations and attacks all add up over time, and they could easily be added to more permanent content in the future, like the much anticipated DLC 2. If I was to have any criticism of this event though, I'd say that the spawn rate of the warriors is a bit broken, as one day I'd encounter one after another and then the next day I'd struggle to find any at all. Also, I'd still prefer the weapon reward to go straight into your stash without having to leave the game to claim it, as it makes no sense to do that for the participation goal and personal goal, but not for the warm-up goal. And I'm not sure, to be honest, if the charm is a worthy global goal reward either, as I would have loved it if they'd have gone just a little bit further with the new animations and added in an actual shield mechanic and gave us a proper shield as a reward, like the one in the old Viking bundle, and one with a fire element would have been really cool. But on the whole, this is a great crossover event for Dying Light 2, And I think we should appreciate the fact that this game has one of the only developers that still actively supports it years after launch. Have I been critical of the game before? Yes, but only because it fell short of expectations as a fan of the original game. Can I fault Techland for constantly listening to the community and updating Dying Light 2 accordingly? Absolutely not. In fact, what other developer even considers doing that after release? Most of them just drop it and move on to the next project. And I feel that because we've been spoiled with Techland giving us everything we want recently, there's a real danger that some of us will never be satisfied no matter how much the game improves. So what do you think? Are you in the camp that enjoyed this event, or did you think it was boring? Let me know in the comments as always, and if you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.